Welcome to Sunday Seminar. We are now in our renewed season. It is the 2024-2025 program year. You may recall last year, our theme was Breaking Bread Together. And that was a much easier theme to do a PowerPoint around than the Faith, Hope, and Love Abide, which is our theme for the next 3 years. We are using Corinthians, 1 Corinthians 13:13a is our theme, focusing this year on faith. Next program year will be on hope, and the following program year will be on love. So obviously, faith is a little bit less tangible than breaking bread together. Even in Hebrews, the passage says something about faith is a belief in things not seen. So in framing this, I was trying to think about what does that mean for our program year? And I ended up sharing a bit about what's happening across all of our ministries, as opposed to focusing on one thing, which was eating together last year. This year, I'm going to be focusing on all of our ministries. So we're doing this, as I said, in a 3-year journey where we are arcing toward our 200th anniversary, which is going to be really exciting in 2027. We hope there'll be a lot of things that are going on that year that are pretty special. And so we wanted to do a theme that would carry us and sort of invigorate and vitalize us as we head that direction. So we're going to be renewing our commitment to everything that makes us a third church, starting with vibrant worship and a beautiful sacred space and a passion for justice in a world desperately in need. So as you know, we are pondering, the session is pondering a capital campaign and what that may look like. You'll be hearing more about that, and that likely as well will arc through the next 3 years. I doubt we'll be finished in 3 years, but at least that's sort of the impetus of what's going to be happening around here. So what have I designed this morning around? I have looked at this beautiful logo that Mac and Rachel designed around faith, hope, and love abiding, and decided that I wanted to orient us this morning on how do we live our faith, how do we increase our faith, how do we show our faith, and how do we share our faith. So living our faith starts with worship. The ground of all our being, of everything we are, everything we do, starts with what we're about to do in an hour or so. That we begin by centering ourselves in God, in God's love, in God's presence, in God's community with worship. So I thought I'd then begin with what does that mean? Eugene Peterson, who you may recognize as he was a pastor, but also a person who did the translation is the wrong word. He did the Message, where he basically went through and tried to put the language of the Bible in common words. And he says that basically the first thing you do is say, let us worship God. And worshiping God is the ground of our being, that we start from that place. So that's why I started this presentation from that place. So worship is going to continue to provide the foundation of what we do here. And I thought I would lift up some of our really big things that are coming up this year as you think about, well, super. So what's happening? What's happening is that we are going to continue worshiping at 10:30 in the morning as we started last week throughout this entire season. On Christmas Eve, we are moving to 2 services as opposed to going back to the 3 services. Last year we did 2 services, you may remember, because Christmas Eve was actually on a Sunday. So we had 3 services on that Sunday, but the morning one at 10:30 was an Advent 4 service. And then we did the 2 evening services at 4:30 and at 9 p.m. so that we would not exhaust our ministers, our choir, our liturgists, our everyone, and would just basically go from 10 in the morning until 10 at night. So we really wrestled with whether or not to go back to the midnight service, because we are the only congregation really that I know of in Rochester that still was doing a midnight service. But we had so many people thank us for moving to the 9 p.m. time and saying that even though there was, I think, a little bit of sadness that last year's service actually, we started singing Silent Night and lighting the candles right at 10 o'clock. So had we started at 11, we would have ended right at midnight, which is sort of the tradition of doing that. But overwhelmingly, the feedback that we got was having the service at the earlier time was a happier occasion. So we listened to you, and even though you may have a little sadness, as do I, that we're not ending at midnight. Nonetheless, we feel like that's the right decision to make. And if it turns out at the end of this year, we hear a lot of feedback in the other direction, maybe we'll change. But this year it will be 4:30 and 9 p.m. Then during Holy Week, we're going to be doing the same things that we have begun doing in my tenure, which is the Palm Sunday service. The Maundy Thursday Tenebrae service will continue. And then we've been having a Good Friday meditative service that goes from noon to 3, which is really every 15 minutes a reading or a piece of music, but a lot of ability to just come and be in sacred space in silence. There are prayer stations so that those are interactive. If you choose to go do those, it's a drop-in service, so you don't have to stay for the full 3 hours, but can come and go as you please. And it has grown over the course of the years that we've done it. So we're going to continue to do that. And then on Easter Sunday, we will again have the sunrise service at 6:30 a.m. and then a 9 a.m. and 11:15. This year, additionally, we're adding more evensong. So I'm very excited about that, we're trying to make it go to a monthly service. As you can see, that will happen pretty much in the fall, in September, October, November. December is so full that we didn't manage to make it happen there. And then we've also got a lot of concerts this year. So in the winter and spring season, there will just be 2 evensongs on the 9th of February and the 18th of May. But nonetheless, we've moved from a couple of times a year to 5 times a year. And I think that's a beautiful addition. We also have special services going on. There's a Full Ray Requiem that is going to be our All Souls service this year. That is a sing if you choose. So you can come at, I think 3 p.m. that day and learn the parts if you want, or you can just show up at 4 p.m. and sing along from the congregation, I believe. I could be incorrect about that, but the objective is for it more or less to be an opportunity for all who want to sing to be able to sing, and we will be lifting up names, not just from our own congregation, but from the community. Anybody who wants to participate in that. Welcome, Joan.
Thank you.
And then the longest night service will happen on Monday, the 16th of December, and the Ash Wednesday service on Ash Wednesday on the 3rd of March. We are late this year in our Eastertide, our Lenten Eastertide, but that's okay too. So that's basically what's going on with worship. I'm sure there will be other things, but it's relatively basic. Nonetheless, it's the ground of our being where we start. Then what are we going to do as far as faith is concerned this year? How are we going to increase our faith? Increasing our faith, of course, is education. So I thought that I would talk a little bit about not just the education that we do as adults, but I feel like often in Sunday seminar, you might not even know what's going on with the kids. And that it might be fun for you to find out a little bit more about children's ministry. If you were here last week, you saw that we had 18 kids on the steps. We had to add another class this year. So things are burgeoning there, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that. And the same is true in our youth ministry. That program as well is beginning to broaden. We'll go over some of the adult ministry pieces, and then the intergenerational that sort of puts it all together so that we have an opportunity to be cross-generational. Also, if you guys have questions or comments or things in the midst of this, just feel free to pipe up or raise your hand or interject at will. So, children's ministry. As you're probably aware, we have weekly classes. The design this year is that periodically children will also be in worship for communion and intergenerational Sundays. Sometimes those are the same. We'll have an intergenerational Sunday on a communion Sunday, in which case, same thing. Children will be in worship for the whole time. Otherwise, they will be going to their classes and the classes, we have more classes this year. We have more kids this year. So that's a really exciting measure of how that is burgeoning, as well as so much else that we see in the church. There are also special worship activities that the kids are involved in. There is the Nativity Christmas service. We're going to be doing that again this year, as we started it up again last year. There's also a Good Friday interactive service. That service is at 4:30 in the afternoon. I know at least a couple of grandkids from here have come to that. It is an interactive service that walks through Jesus's last week with things like eating a little roll and drinking a juice box as we talk about what is communion and how did the Lord's Supper get instituted, or they have an opportunity we go into the garth and pretend it's the Garden of Gethsemane and fall asleep, even though Jesus asks us to stay awake all night. We go into the cloister area and wash our hands along with Pilate. So there's many layers. There are several stations and several opportunities to actually tangibly touch and feel and think about what this day, this Good Friday, is about. And then at the end, we actually take the kids into a room that we pretend is a tomb and be in the dark for a minute. And then we come out and we whisper practice, He is risen, Christ is risen, He is risen indeed, so that they know that's not the end of the story, and give them a little gift bag with symbols of resurrection to open on Easter Sunday. So there's a whole process by which we hope we can help them to understand what this week is about. And it's been very well attended. We've had around 15 or 20 kids both years that we've done it. Additionally, there's sacrament education, where we talk about the Lord's Supper and baptism. So that's usually in the spring at some point, so that we've got a little bit of conversation around what are we doing when we eat the Lord's Supper? What did it mean to be baptized? And finally, of course, I'm sure know that the Choristers is another program that just continues to grow and expand. We had 9 children yesterday in Be a Chorister Day, 7 of whom were new. We have lost a few to attrition, as we're going to, or to aging out, but it looks like we'll probably have between 20 and 25 kids this year. When you think about the fact that we started with 12, a dozen 2 years ago, that last year we started with around 18, but ended up with 16, I'm figuring we are once again going to have between, like I said, 20 to 22. So that's incredible growth in such a brief period of time. And I cannot say enough about James Keeley and what he has done to invigorate the program there. Additionally, there's extra fun and fellowship. There is going to be the intergenerational gathering again that I lift up here and a couple of places, because it's just so much fun. But we will do cookies and carols again, so that you can bring cookies or you can just come and eat them. And then we will have an opportunity to sing the Christmas carols that people love before Christmas, not in worship, but before Christmas, gathering together in community. One of the reasons we decided to do that is because it used to be that you would go everywhere and you would hear Christmas carols that were Christian Christmas carols, no matter where you went, to the grocery store, to the, in the gas station, wherever you were, you heard Oh Holy Night and Joy to the World, and there's very little of that anymore. So we feel like kids are not learning them in the same way, they're not hearing them in the same way, and this gives us an opportunity, both as people older and younger, to sing those favorite and beloved carols. They also have a pajamas, pizza, and play activity where they show up and in a very casual, entertaining way for an evening together, and then there's an end of year picnic. So there are many ways that kids are getting to know one another, beginning to build relationships, as well as develop their faith formation. Youth ministry is also burgeoning. They have last year did a twice a month food, faith, and fellowship, which will continue. They get together for a meal. They have a little bit of program around their faith and then some fellowship activities as well. And then they do service and shenanigans, which last year was usually once a month. And that could be service, which is usually something like serving at dining room ministry or at another food pantry, or going and being active in a ministry outside of our congregation. And then there are also shenanigans, which is essentially, welcome, Sue. Essentially doing fun activities like rock climbing or going to a pumpkin patch and a corn maze, things like that. Last year, they did an activity like that once a month. This year, they're increasing so that every single weekend, the kids are together doing an activity, whether it is a service activity, it is a shenanigans / fun activity, or it is that sort of grounding yourself in community through your faith. Additionally, this year, they're doing a new thing called Worship and Connection, where they're getting together prior to worship once a month just to have an easy bagel breakfast and then sitting together and worship. One of the goals here is to get kids that are in their teenage years to actually come to worship, not just build their community outside of worship, but to have a place where they feel like they're in community and getting to worship together as well. So that's happening once a month this year. And then in the summer, I just put it up as a summer something. Every summer, there will be something that they will be actively engaged in that will be a trip type of thing. It could be a mission trip. It could be a retreat like the Montreat events have been in the past. Or this coming year, it will likely be triennium. It is a triennium year, so it makes sense for our kids to go to that national event. So then adult ministry. We have begun to rebuild the fellowship activities. You'll see some, I'm sure, that you recognize. Elvis to Elton has begun meeting again under the wonderful oversight of Mary Boyd and Chuck Lewis. They're beginning to do activities on a pretty regular basis. Those usually have both a fellowship and an educational component. People are invited to bring their lunch, and then there will be a program with someone who can help. The most recent one, I don't remember who the gentleman was from, but was about avoiding the risk of being scammed online. So they're pertinent programs that particularly help folks that are in the older community in our church. You're probably familiar with the knitting group, the yoga group, the men's group. The Out to Lunch Bunch is a once a month activity that is supported by our More Light team. And anyone is invited to come and share lunch together, either here on campus or sometimes off campus at a restaurant. And then our young adult ministry, which is for young people from 20 to 35, I believe, which sort of began meeting sporadically last year. It met 3 times, is going to be a monthly activity this year. So it's also beginning to build. And then, of course, there are all the ways in which we can form our faith, can grow in our faith. This year we are having Bible study. Bible study, instead of Sunday seminar in the month of October, will be in the parlor post worship. So there'll be an opportunity to, in the month of October, not to get here at 9:15, but to stay, have some type of a quick, easy, lighter meal, and then enjoy Bible study on the Gospel of Mark, which is also the lectionary readings with Diana Daunton. We also have congregational anti-racism training, which I really encourage you. Rye could say more about this in a much more cogent way probably than I, so I'll invite you to talk to him if you're interested in this. We would love to have our whole congregation take this training so that we end up with a common lexicon and being on the same page as we really strive to live out our Matthew 25 call. So talk to Rye if you want more. Is there anything more you'd want to say about it now?
No, it'd be hard to say a sentence about it.
When does it start up again? Maybe that's an important
It's
thing.
October 16th, I believe, is the beginning of a 5-week course, which we're doing from 5:30 till about, we're gonna do a half an hour. We have something to eat, and then an hour and a half of of presentations, discussions. There's going to be homework. We have assignments. Some of you are familiar with it already from what has been done in the past. And so a lot of people are saying, well, done, I've been there. But we've made a real effort to make it meatier and to go beyond what we've done in the past and sort of rekindle what I worry about being a flickering flame of interest in this Matthew 25 initiative that the church is undertaking. And so I hope this reinvigorates some of that commitment to that, but that's maybe in a nutshell what we hope to do. But I encourage you to take it. I've learned so much from it, really, honestly.
Right, which day of the week would that be?
It'll be a Wednesday,
Oh.
when church is open because of choir, some Thursday for choir. It's,
But it starts at 5:30.
that's right, it does start at 5:30.
So it's over 5 quarter, okay.
Thank you, Ryan. So I would encourage those of you who are able to or have not yet to take that. We also have Enneagram classes, which I think cross both spirituality and community building. This year, we're doing something a little different where we are taking a group to a conference, the Southern Lights Conference, on Friday, January 17th to Sunday, January 19th. We have had I think we've had 10 people sign up so far for that, where we're going to be going to St. Simon Island in Georgia for 3 days. I'm waiting until I know what my critical mass is going to finally totally be like before we figure out getting down there. But if you're interested in signing up for that, it's got incredible speakers. It's overseen by Diana Butler Bass and Brian McLaren. Robert Jones, who wrote the book that I spoke, was a panel discussion person on XXI's connections in July, will be one of the keynote speakers. We're going to be doing a book discussion on that book. So if you are interested in discussing that together, we're gonna do that starting in October every other Saturday, and probably do a church-wide discussion in January or February, either right before or right after we actually go to the Southern Lights Conference. If you want more information about the Southern Lights Conference, there is more information in this month's messenger, including a discount code to get about 25% off of the registration fee. So, or just talk to me. I would love to have you go with us, as I'm going to be the pastoral presence. We have Sunday seminar. Today's the first of those. Next week, I believe we have Ted talking about the outreach program, and the week after that, we have Christine talking about our inReach. And then, as always, we have Thursday Voices. Christine is back. We have Pastoral Presence leading it as per usual during the program year. It just completed its summer season with leaders from that group. Christine is doing this month. I am doing next month, Ted the month after that, and we'll be alternating each one of us. And then We Make the Road by Walking, which is an annual or a weekly devotional. You can go to it on Monday nights at 7 p.m. with Christine online. You can come on Wednesday afternoon at 1 p.m. either in person or online, hybrid with Ted. Or you can get up real early in the morning and be with me at 7 a.m. I don't care what you look like. There are people who come in their pajamas. It's fine. I'm doing it from my house. I expect anyone else to do it from theirs. We've had our first meeting last week and it's already feeling like it's going to be quite the journey. It is going to be an entire year. We're going to walk through the whole book, which is a 52-week process. And one of the cool things about it is, even for us, the leaders, if we're not there, it's okay. You can go to 2 other ones. So if you're not there because you've got to be somewhere else, that's fine. You can choose to go to a different one, or you can choose to skip a week and read the material on your own and be with us the following week. They're each maybe a couple of pages. They're not long devotional pieces, 2 or 3 pages, but they are pretty meaty. And so I feel like together we could really have a transformative experience if you'd like to be a part of that. All righty. And then, of course, we have intergenerational. I didn't know you were going to be here, so we get to see yourself right up front and personal. So intergenerational ministry is going to happen again, as you see the left 2 pictures. I have of the cookies and carols event, which was so much fun. And the reason I chose that photo that's him smiling right up front in the beginning is because you can look at that photo and you can see the diversity, the intergenerationality of that event. And that's the goal, because often we tend to be in our own little silos and we only know the people that we know, the 15 or 20 people that we know. And these events are opportunities for us to be involved as a church. And the one that you see on the far end is Corey Averill in Boar's Head, which is coming back this year as well. We even have Mary Gillette's little baby fair, as we have a baby Jesus. Woohoo. And so it's gonna be exciting, and I think it's gonna be exciting to see that in a new way. I do mention it later in the next section, which is showing our faith. So showing our faith is about in reach, essentially. We gather in community in a wide variety of ways over the course of the program year. So we live our faith through worship, through our foundational grounding in God. We increase our faith by being involved in educational activities and Bible studies and things like that. And we show our faith internally by being involved in those big group events. Our first gathering was and is the rally day. Once again, you've got Chris in the background. But I liked this photo, and you can't see it, but on the far left over here is behind Jennifer Harris Dalt is Mandy and her little daughter Naima, but she got cut out of the photo because I liked it, because once again we have a lot of intergenerational activity going on there. We also added a service fair this year. The service fair is a new opportunity for you not just to pledge your treasures when we have our stewardship campaign later, but it's an opportunity for you to pledge your time and your talent. One of the things we did when we moved, one of the reasons we moved to a different governance model, we had 35 people between the trustees and the session in leadership. And we looked at that, we went, if we took all of the hours that those people spend in a month, 2-hour meetings, that's 70 hours of work, of ministry that they could be doing instead of sitting in a meeting. So by moving to a 12-person session, it'll be 14 this year as we go into transition. What we're doing essentially is we're giving back another 30 to 40 hours a month where people could choose, instead of sitting in a meeting, they could choose to actually go do something they're passionate about. They could actually go make a difference in God's world, in ministry, whether that be here inside or outside. So when you go to worship today, you will be given a little pledge card, only it's not a pledge card for money. It is a pledge card for, well, if I were going to give 2 hours a month to the congregation, what would that be? Where would that be? How would that be? Would that be something that is going to be internal, something like I'm going to sing in the choir, or I'm going to go to a Thursday Voices, or I'm going to participate in an intergenerational gathering? Or is it going to be something outside? I'm gonna be on a dining room ministry team, or I'm gonna do a habitat house, or any number of things. But our goal was to encourage people to ground their faith in worship, to get themselves increasing in study, and then to step out in faith, whether that be here in the building or out in the world. So I hope that you will respond and pledge something today, some of your time. So what are some of the big things that are going to be happening? These are the big things that we will have, as we usually do. The Money and Ministry activity, which is going to be on November 17th. There will be a meal and an update on the annual budgeting process. It is possible that there may be at that point a vote on a capital campaign. The session has now moved to have a subcommittee define sort of possible parameters. If in October they vote for any of those parameters, any of those possible campaign outlines, then we would come to the community and have at least 2 and probably 3 town halls to get your input. There's no way we would move forward on something of that magnitude without having conversations in the congregation. So maybe, depending on what happens in October with the session and what happens in October and November with the congregation, we might also be bringing a campaign to vote on in November. If you continue moving to your right, you will see Boar's Head. It's back. Rehearsals are going to be on the 2nd and the 3rd of January. Performances on the 4th and the 5th. James Keeley is going to be doing the musical direction, and Darby Thompson is going to be doing the acting direction, the blocking and all the formerly Mary Dubois role, which is phenomenal because Darby works a lot in theater and particularly in behind the scenes work around the community. So she's got the chops and the enthusiasm. So we're excited about that. Welcome, Tricia. Then next, the capital campaign launch celebration. As you see, should the way be clear, we would imagine that we would do that sometime in midwinter. If it happens that the session says yes and the congregation says yes, then it would have to go before the Presbytery trustees and then through before the Presbytery for approval before we could actually say, yeah, we're able to do this. So we're thinking January, February, depending on depending on all of those steps occurring. The annual meeting. Once again, we'll have a meal together. We'll vote on our leadership. That is who are going to be our new elders, who are going to be our new deacons, as well as the not 2024, the 2025 budget. This budget will be over. Error. And that usually happens the first Sunday in March, according to our bylaws. So that's when that will be. And then last year, you may remember, we instituted a Breaking Bread Together fellowship dinner. It was sort of analogous to the former Meals with a Meaning dinner, where people gathered in various homes around a shared meal, perhaps with people that they had never shared a meal with before. In its former iteration, there was a fundraising aspect to it. There is no fundraising aspect to this. It is just let's get together and be in community. So we're imagining that this will happen probably sometime in April or May after Easter. The date is not set yet, but if you would either like to host anywhere from 6 to a dozen people in your home for that meal, or would like to participate in attending, speak to Jeremy Stratton Smith or Mary Gillette, who have agreed to again organize that. Last year we had 3 meals in 3 different locations. We're hoping that we'll increase that this year. And then as per usual, we will end with a big lunch, our end of year picnic celebration. It's small, but there was a little change up this year with some coleslaw. And I will tell you, I had a lot of people enthusiastic about the fact that we're kind of going, we don't have to do everything the way we've always done it. Even if it's a little thing like coleslaw instead of carrots, it just shows that we are willing to. Everything doesn't have to look like it always does, because it's just not going to, right? So why don't we lean into that rather than be afraid of it? Finally, there is sharing our faith. Sharing our faith is outreach, is how do we take the faith that we encounter, that we ground ourselves in and worship, that we increase in study and education, and that we show here inside our walls out into the world. So the photos that I have here, and let's see who we have in here that's with us now. We've got Deb there in a picture. Yeah, so I tried to, and there's Rye over on the far right. I really loved this. We are the heart of Third Presbyterian Church. This congregation does not exist and thrive and do its ministry in the world because of me or any of the staff, even though I think we are necessary and hope that we facilitate the dreams and the hopes and of the congregation. in the way that God would long for, but really it is you that makes the difference. And so I'm not going to talk about all of that because that's Ted's job next week to talk about all of that. But I did want to remind you that it exists, that we exist as a community of faith, not just as individuals and not just as leaders. So that is my presentation for what's going to be happening this coming year. I am sure there's stuff I've missed and there's questions that you may have. And so I'm open to those now. Yeah.
I have a suggestion that it would be helpful to put a staff coordinator or liaison or something next to things so that people would know who to go to. Just for the purpose.
So that is a super suggestion. And if you look, I'll actually go grab one of these right now.
Yeah, there's just that first, you're talking about the booklet that came with that?
Well, I was just talking about for this presentation, if I was interested in yoga, who would I touch base?
So
If I was
in
interested
accordance
in-
with our new pillar system,
Right.
we made these beautiful brochures that talk about every single pillar and talk about every single activity. And have a staff person affiliated with each and every one of them in the brochure. So if you grab and remind you of our Matthew 25 focus on the back, that every single one of these things that we do comes from a Matthew 25 perspective. And they're really pretty too, I think. I'm very pleased with Mac's design. He's been a real gift to our congregation as well. So I would encourage you to pick these up. The part of the reason why we did them in time for this week, so that if you do say, gee, I want to be involved in XYZ thing, you can pick up one of these brochures. You can look at who is the staff person. And we put in particular staff people and not chairpersons or conveners of different teams, because those are going to change. And we wanted to make these as evergreen as possible. So if you want to know more about it, pick these up. They are out here. They will be in multiple places. We'll have them in a variety, available in a variety of ways, so that you're able to find what you need to know and who you need to talk to do it.
Rebecca, who is going to be kind of taking Becky's spot in children's faith?
Molly Johnson is our interim director of children's ministry. She has already got oversight of all of that. The children's message is going to be shared between me and Ted and Christine. So I did it last week, I'll do it this week, and then we're gonna alternate after that every week. It's gonna change to be one of the three of us. Molly was not comfortable with doing sort of the theological piece in front of the congregation, but she is doing all of the administration piece as well as the education piece during choristers. And Tony, meanwhile, is staffing that committee, because Molly will remain the convener of children's ministry, and we didn't want to have her be, that felt like conflict of interest to have her be the convener and the staff person, so Tony's picking up the staffing of that committee. Other questions? And then we're gonna figure it out. That's it, that we are anticipating this as an interim position while the personnel committee figures out sort of what is next. Other questions? Okay, I'll go to Rye and then Sue.
And one question I have is, where can you find out who are the chairs and pillars, or whatever they're called now?
Yeah, conveners. So, the chairs of the pillars, that's different from the conveners of the teams. So the team comes under a pillar. Yes, we're still working all of this out, and things are still, it's gonna be messy, I think, for this first year. The chairs of the pillars are all session members. And we are working right now on a website page that will both elucidate, this is our new system, and it will have each one of these booklets at the bottom of it that you can click on that will open up and tell you what's inside the team. I think it's totally reasonable for us to think about adding the chairs of the pillars there. That would be a place that would make sense. And so, and like I said, the webpage is not yet up, although it's being designed right now by Mac, so we'll be sending Mac and Rachel, it'll be soon.
Mine was just a suggestion, as we were driving down, about how it would be really nice to know what the topic's gonna be at the Sunday forum here ahead of time, before Friday, the 2 days before.
When you get
We could
the
have like
update.
a week at a month at a time, or just, it just helps you kind of focus what you're gonna be.
I think that's a great suggestion, and we'll pass that to Chris, who is the convener of the adult spiritual
Yes,
formation
okay,
team
okay.
here. So that's you're saying in exactly the right place.
I mean, we used to have the monthly messenger and then it would be in there, but now that we don't, it's just kind of, all of a sudden we find out 2 days before.
That's a great point, and I can tell you that for the rest of this month, the 22nd, it'll be, I think it's Ted that's
Right.
speaking next week, and then Christine is speaking on the 29th. And then in October, there will be no Sunday seminar because we're doing the Bible
Well,
study
Sunday seminar will move
to the afternoon to be
to
the Bible
noon,
study.
following
Yeah,
workshop.
but if we could kind of know.
Right.
time to make our-
No, I hear you, I'm just giving you who are in this room in this
Yeah, we
moment,
get special.
that, the response. But I think that's a good point, and maybe there's some way for us to put a calendar up.
So we
in a
have
way
the
that
music
people
thing
would
for
see.
the whole year, but I know adult ed isn't always got the whole year planned out all.
But we do have through the end of 2025. I
We
end
do.
there could be a calendar
end
that
of
could go up.
There could be, yeah,
24.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, I don't know what year it is or what year it's going to be or.
Is the calendar on Alexio used or accurate?
You know, I don't know if people use it or not. I use it a lot.
Yeah, it's just a suggestion.
I look on the website and I wish there were more,
Okay.
so. I look at both.
I mean, it's there, so it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, that's
Could
true.
this be enough? It has to be maintained, unfortunately, it's another place to maintain something, but.
Well, Alexio is well maintained. We go through it every single week as
Oh,
a staff on
then- Oh, what
Tuesday
do you
morning. So
have?
Alexio is well maintained.
Yeah.
The problem is it doesn't integrate with anything else. We've had lots of conversations in staff about wishing that you could import it
Yeah.
into Google, and then you could embed a Google Calendar into the website, or I mean, it's not that hard to embed a calendar into a website. Once it's embedded, it's there, and that's a beautiful thing. But you gotta have somebody maintain it, and we're already maintaining Alexio, so it feels like a lot to maintain
It's
another.
just another resource to direct people to.
Yeah, we've had this conversation a lot, and I would agree, but how, we don't know yet.
So my sense is that there are lots of people, myself included, I use Alexio all the time, but I didn't know there was a calendar.
Mm,
Oh,
So it would be really helpful, I think. I don't feel like I'm not aware of things here, but I had no idea there was a calendar.
okay.
So just letting people know that when you go to Alexio, oh yes, there's a calendar there that's maintained.
Okay,
Not on there.
But I think it says, yeah, as you press, because I use the calendar a lot, it says directory calendar as
Oh,
soon as you press
see,
it.
I get on Alexio, type the name of the person I'm looking for, and up pops their address. I mean, that's how I use it,
Right,
email. or
right,
phone
right,
number.
yeah,
So I use it to find people's information,
right.
and that's all I've ever used it for.
Right, no, I think Deb's right, that when you go to that home page, it tells you, it gives you options, and you just click on directory, because that's what you're going for.
I'll go right home and figure it out, but.
No, I agree with
I'm not alone.
information is a good thing, information is a good thing. Any other questions?
But I think it's
Who
usually.
maintains the calendar in Alexio?
Rose?
Thank you. They use it.
Yeah, we're just looking at it right now, and she doesn't see yoga on there.
And I'm turning magically into an usher, so
Yoga's not on there, because yoga should be on there, we talked.
Because it's on the, you know, on the back of the bulletin and everything, right?
Yeah,
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Rose is the one I work with, so it'll be there.
yeah.
We'll get it.
Okay.
I mean, cause she and that, when, every single Tuesday, we go through the calendar for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So I can't always guarantee you that the calendar is gonna be accurate beyond 2 weeks, because things change all the time. But I can guarantee you that it'll be accurate for at least 2 weeks, because we talk about it every Tuesday and go at least 2 weeks out.
Is that a place where Sunday seminar topics could be listed for a month in advance? I mean, you've got a calendar, why couldn't we just put Ted, Christine, Bible study with Diana Dunton,
We all know where to look.
I mean, I think that's a viable possibility for sure,
That's
for
what
sure.
I'm looking.
Cause it will tell you the location, it will tell you the, I mean, it
Yeah,
gives you all
all of
kinds of
our stuff,
information,
yeah.
yeah. I mean, it often will even have lots of notes that you don't need, like, how does the room need to be set up? Because the sextons use it for that, you know, so.
Perfect.
Put a lot of time in that.
So I didn't mean to open a Pandora's. can.
That was really good.
All good, all good.
Is there anything else? Any other questions, suggestions, thoughts, ideas? I hope this has been helpful,
Very.
Yeah.
so I mean, and there's lots of stuff I didn't talk about, and pick up James Keeley's, choral events schedule. I did not talk about all of the concerts that we have going on this year. I mentioned Evensong within the context of worship. But we've got multiple concerts happening. The Concert for Peace this year, Concert for Justice this year is gonna have different people than it had last year that we're gonna be supporting. There are just multiple things that are gonna be going on that I have not mentioned and that may not be mentioned at our outreach or congregational care, which are gonna be the foci of Ted and Christine's. So pick up James's as well.
Yeah, I wanna say if you were unable to be at yesterday's concert, it was really wonderful. So I'm just saying.
Yesterday's concert supported an Afghan refugee family where,
Music,
yeah, it was very neat, very, there was a breadth. There was a
yes.
breadth, which was really
People
lovely.
from other churches, it was good.
And the choir was beautiful. It was, I thought it was funny. There were I think 19 people in the choir, which for us is small. But probably for most people who were at the concert was large.
Yeah,
And they filled the space with sound. I mean, they did a beautiful job. It was a beautiful choir and really interesting music. James directed one while Jerome played and
Yeah.
Jerome directed one while James played. And they picked two very different pieces because of their sort of own musical styles. It's beautifully done. Well, then I am going to invite us to close in prayer. Loving God, I thank you so much for this year that we are looking at, this year ahead, for this season ahead. I thank you for the ways in which we see new life and growth and enthusiasm and vibrancy. I ask that we would lean in to all of that and find exactly the place where you are calling us to be, to utilize our passions and skills and talents so that we might further the knowledge of your presence and the work you call us to do here in this church and out in the world. In the holy name of your son, Jesus, we pray. Amen. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.